Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Troglodyte Horror and Cult Film Review. I am Loki Jesse, and it's been a while. It's been about 2 months, so I took a long hiatus. A lot of stuff has been going around and on at home. Some good, some bad. Just a lot of things, and it kind of keeps me distracted. And I, uh, you know, just things happen, and I'm back now. So it is what it is. But So last month in February, I was invited to the Lost River Film Festival in San Marcos, Texas, and let me tell you, I had a blast. It was a 4-day event. However, my work only let me go for 1 day, and it was the best day ever. It was Sunday, and that's where all the short films were there. And it was like 3 blocks. Well, three film. How can I say this? I'm gonna keep this. I'm not gonna take this out. But it was like 3 rounds of films, those short films from very great, a lot of good creators around Texas and some outside of Texas. But the first block was super fun. It was called Texas Standouts. And this block started off with Blood Box, which is a music video directed by Joshua Rayleigh. It was an okay film. Um, It's kind of like very words spoken about, a lot of experiences about mental health and struggles. So I liked the meaning. I like what it was doing. It just, it really, the type of music wasn't my thing, but it was good. The editing was great. Next, we have Tangelo is Not a Frog, directed by Alistair Redden. This was kind of like an animated film. It looked like well, it was going to be like a storybook. So this was pretty neat, fun, very cute. I liked it. The animation was good. The story was very straightforward. Really enjoyed it. Next, we had Crud, which was directed by Jody Sturdzing. No, Sternzig. Sorry, said that wrong. Great film about the day in the life of an oil worker. It was okay. It was in black and white, which I loved, but it kind of felt like there was more going on in the film, like more questions than answers. It was kind of like a day in the life, but there was something going on, like if there was a monster or something killing people. Although the film doesn't really explore much because it does stop. So that was pretty much it for that one. Next, we had Francine, which was a world premiere, and that was directed by Julian Motes. And that was a pretty good, like, sci-fi action drama film about this girl who has the ability to go into people's memories with just a touch. My God, I read a lot of comic books. There's a word for that. But it was a good film, very intense. The actress played it very monotone, very straight, hardly broke a laugh. Season the Q&A, and we'll get to that in a bit. Next, we have Daddy Warbucks. Warbucks, sorry. Daddy Warbucks, directed by Jake Abraham. I like this one. This one was pretty good. A period piece about, like, like an amateur banker or financier trying to close a deal with this like senior gentleman who has a lot of money. Very good, very intense. I loved it. It put a smile on my face the way it was so twisted and evil. So I really like this one. The final one was Sweetwater, Texas, which was about the rattlesnakes festival. Sorry, the rattlesnake festivals that they have up there in Sweetwater. And this film is basically about a granddaughter who comes down to visit her grandmother because they have a lineage to, like, they're related to the person that started it all. And she's kind of an activist and a human rights person. And the grandmother is, the opposite of her. So it's kind of like a fish out of water thing where can they coexist? Very good film, very cute. I liked it a lot. It's kind of like a road trip. sort of film. Very good, very intense. These were the this was the first block of films that was shown in the morning, and after this there was a Q&A which I recorded. So now we're gonna get to the Q&A of the video. So this will be it for me. Thank you everybody for watching. Please stay tuned because I have parts 2 and 3 of the festival block and my quick reviews and the Q&As for those sections. So keep on shining and stay tuned for the next one.
Do it through the composition of music. I'm not sure if y'all heard it in the background. I composed that, as well as that tying that into the story that I was trying to tell, which was mental health awareness. I think that bringing these two mediums together, music and film, um, I think it got a point. It got across the point that I was trying to tell, which is the fact that we should all be aware of our mental health, as well as we should also be honest about it. So, did I answer your question?
You did, and I should let probably go back and forth one more time, but everyone can just kind of go ahead and explain kind of where this idea comes from and what drew you to your project.
Right. Yeah, of course. So this idea came from just my own personal experiences as a veteran with post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, I feel like too many times veterans with post-traumatic stress or any type of mental health disorder, a lot of times we don't have a voice, or it's seen as we don't have a voice. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to amplify that the best that I possibly could. It is a student-made film. It was my very first film. So I just, it's just one of those things. I was afraid that I wasn't gonna be able to finish it actually, and I'm glad that I did. So
Tangela is not a frog. Initially, I wrote it as a children's story, and in the process of creating and writing that story, creating the characters and everything, I decided hey, I have all this extra stuff. I really want to create a. It was really just supposed to be a read along for kids to listen to it and be able to hear it kind of have a bit of an acting and stuff involved. Really, the crux of Tangela is part of me as well, is that being part of that self-discovery of, hey, it's really okay just to be me. I'm not going to fit in everywhere, and aren't necessarily my frogs in the pond.
We got the idea for Crude several years ago. We were down at outside of Presidio working on a film project 4 or 5 years ago, and we started kicking around the idea for Crude, but it was a feature. And of course, working in the business, you're always working on somebody else's project, so it's sat and sat and sat. And I had an opportunity last year. I was for some reason on the Texas Film Commission website, and I had scrolled all the way down to the bottom where it says call for entrance, and it said Texas Film Belt Competition. And at that time, it was 10 minutes or less, all these different qualifiers. You had to film within 50 miles of I-10. I-10 had to be featured in at least one scene. I could go on and on and on. We decided, hey, let's just do this. And we ended up in the top 15 at that. That's how this little short product, our zany brand of weird comedy for Crude came about.
Yeah, and man, this was a lot of fun to work on this project with Jody. I guess we've known each other for like 6 or 7 years at this point. We've done like a few different things together, and he approached me. All the music in the film is that was either me or my band, um, and it was really cool to kind of put some like visuals to these songs that I had written. And Jody did a great job of writing, or I don't know if he did it on purpose or if it's just meant to be, but those songs fit with the themes in the film perfectly. So it was just really cool, creative project to be a part of.
So I wrote the short Daddy Warbucks not long after I graduated high school. I was reading a lot of plays at the time, and I was really kind of into that format. And I thought, being kind of naive, I was like, well, why don't I try to make that into a short film, something very theatrical and very actor heavy. And I love period stuff. And that's the place that it says where my dad's family is from. That's where he grew up, in Sulphur, Louisiana. And I was reading a lot of Tennessee Williams, which is set around that area. And it just really compelled me, the story about this kind of screwed up family, and a son doing that to his father. So that was it really, and I just kind of shot it. So yeah.
Well, when I write a movie, I sort of analyze what problems I'm dealing with, and you know, the weight of whatever I've got going on, and I always feel like through the process of making the movie, I'll feel better at the end. You unite a team together, and you're all working towards one objective, and usually at the end, I sort of feel better about whatever I was dealing with. And for Francine, I wanted to make a movie sort of analyzing that. This character doesn't have a creative outlet, but she has these feelings, that won't go away. And she doesn't quite feel right. And so she finds a like minded person and they work on this mission together, to accomplish this objective. And at the end of the movie, they feel a lot better and they can breathe, but they did kill a guy and that's no good. And, do they really, are they really healed? It might feel like it in the moment, but years later, is that still going to be there? I don't really know the answer. So it's up to the audience. And so that's why I made the movie.
So Sweetwater is a pretty personal film for myself and my sister. My mother is in the film as Nanny. Our actual great uncle is Bill Ransberger. So we wanted to tell a story about this crazy part of our family that we didn't know a lot about. And tell a Texan story that felt really Texan and felt like our road trips growing up, as well as some of the conflicts that you have with your Texan family, that you come to these disagreements that you have to sort of navigate, and you still love each other, but it can be tough sometimes. So we wanted to do that, and yeah, it was definitely very personal, and it was super fun to work with my sister, both writing it and directing it. So yeah. So Joshua, I jumped the gun, but you had a question earlier, so I'm not gonna. It was like I'm skipping you, but yeah, I handed you right after. And so for Nick, can you talk about just driving and being in West Texas, which is such a special and beautiful place, and kind of how West Texas affected the film? Yeah, so I mean, West Texas obviously is ruggedly gorgeous in a lot of ways. It's the desert. It's hard to film in. It's hard to film on film in. And it's especially hard when there's an actual dust storm. Our maybe second day of filming, an actual dust storm blew through the area that we were filming in. We had gusts of wind upwards of like 30, 40 miles an hour. So we were pretty worried about a lot of the equipment. But it did work out. It added a lot of atmosphere to those first airport scenes. I mean, we filmed at the airport and there were no planes taking off because it was that windy. So there are challenges, but also the people out in West Texas are so friendly and so supportive. Everyone we talked to was so excited that we were filming something out in either Abilene or Sweetwater or just in their area. They were super helpful. We had so much support from the community, and it was really beautiful. John, so we all dealt some heavy topics, right? Can you talk about maybe getting in that headspace and maybe how also get out of that headspace while not shooting? So if your character had a younger actress play you, and seeing that light and then having to go to your darkness was so especially heavy. Can you talk about maybe that choice?
Yeah, it was definitely a very different headspace to try and inhabit. I actually did have a little bit of trouble trying to get Francine down in general at the beginning, and I feel like it it was something similar to what Julian was saying. We really try and explore kind of how we're feeling as we're creating the film. And so I think that was something that I just tried as much as possible to connect with what I could. And at the end of the day, like I think filming in general can be kind of difficult when you're on set and you're especially with as heavy of these topics. And so it's just about trying to take a deep breath and separate yourself for a second and then, going to the next day and trying to work through it as you're filming.
And even though the movie's very heavy, when we're shooting, we're always having a good time. I mean, Sophie has to actually be in that headspace, so that's tougher. But I have two crew members in the audience here, Danny and Andrew, and they work hard. We were only a crew of 5 people, including Jaden, who's the bald guy, the actor, and so we're tight knit and we have fun. For example, the one dialogue scene in the movie, when we were shooting it, there was a Pilates class 10 feet to the left of us, and they were blasting rap music. So a lot of that's ADR, but I will never forget the scene where I'm pushing towards, Jaden as he's falling under the spell because Francine's using her ability on him. If you listen to that camera audio, I think it was Cardi B. You could hear her going like, "Pop that ass, make it twerk," and he was still able to get there emotionally. So we're always having a good time while shooting, even though it's heavy.
And cars on Facebook. Yeah, it was just a lot of reaching out to people and a lot of luck, In the first draft of the script, I had that exact model that you see in the film for that red car. So that was very lucky that it worked out so well. So really, it was just sticking to it and just, not cutting corners in terms of, oh, this will work. It was like, no, I want this to be very specific and show up that way on screen.
So Crude, I think within its black and white and its humor kind of reminded me of Eagle Pinnell's the whole shooting match. Nodding at it, cool, great. But yeah, it's a really fun group of cast of characters. Can you talk about working with that group and how you found all these kind of kooky folks to be in it?
You wanna do that? Well, I always had an affinity for working with musicians who were characters because I thought when they acted, they're just playing themselves anyway. And Keith is kind of like the wavy tube man of all the characters. He just got a real easy way going through it. We had Molly Sakonchik played Carol in the film, who's struggling to tell Dave she's pregnant while eating her box of hamburgers. We had worked with her on Weed Hacker Massacre, Storage Locker. David Trevino also was the star of Weed Hacker Massacre. So I tried to get people like Gerald Broden, longtime veteran in the film industry, Texas, California, now back to Texas. Happy to have him in Crude. I just try to get people I don't have to worry about so much, especially with these small projects, because I think with a short film, your locations are half the battle sometimes. So we were able to get that right at least. So give credit to Luling and Fayetteville for reaching out to us on that. But I think finding the characters is, for us in this instance, it was the easiest to stick with what we knew was going to be a sure bet. And I remember last night at the Alamo too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And for you, can you talk about working with those characters and Otis especially was a funny one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just fun. I don't have a whole lot of acting experience. Um, and Jody told me, he's like, just show up and be you, kind of be an animated version of you. And so, that's what it was. Otis, that's how he is, whether we're filming or not. And so, in fact, I would say he's even more Otis when we're not filming. So I guess it's, just showing up and being present and seeing what comes from it.
Well, it's funny that you even got Otis to go set then. It's like that. But Brett, kind of a similar question to Joshua's, but you adapted your book into animation. Do you do that with all of your work, or some of the challenges of kind of moving from this page turning space into a film?
So one of the challenges that comes with it is being able to arrange everything properly and have all the assets that you have to begin with. So by assets, I just mean like the photos or the images and things, to be able to cut it down and animate it and see what's going to look good and see what flows properly and if what you're saying on, you know, with the voiceover is going to match with whatever's going to be there. So um, by trade, I'm an editor and producer, so and voiceover. So for me, a lot of these things kind of fell into place when I wrote the kids' book, and being this is always something I wanted to do anyways, to write kids' books. So I have Tangelo, and I've also got another one called Nutmeg, which again are stories about big feelings for kids to have, like things that happen that are kind of, you know, scary and unique, or learn just trying to fit in places where you may not. You know, people try to tell you this is what you need to be. No, that's not the case. So in adapting it, it was literally just page by page. I just read through the script, but the script was the book itself. So it was just sort of not really a translating, as it was just, you know, moving things over. So, but I enjoyed it. I had a hell of a fun time. So it was a good process. Hopefully I'll continue to do more. I'm working on another Tangelo book, so we'll see.
So let me keep more coming along for sure. Audience, do you have any questions? I don't think I'm gonna walk the mic to you, so you can just stand up and I'll point, and then you can say it out loud. If not, I've got a few more. So,
Are there any normal people in Texas?
I went and checked.
Just kidding.
No. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Gerald Rudd. So I grew up in Lubbock, and I had a buddy of mine, David Grant, who grew up in Sweetwater, and he was always telling me about the rattlesnake roundup. So was that airport? Was that Abilene or was that Lubbock?
That was Abilene.
Abilene, okay.
Yeah, that was Abilene Airport. In the script, we wanted it to land in San Angelo because it's a longer trip, Sweetwater. So we had on the airport screen San Angelo Airport, but it was Abilene, and you can't see it anyway. So, but it was, and they were awesome. They were so great to work with.
Yeah, I thought it was real interesting that you opened up with a sandstorm because, you know, growing up in Lubbock, we had those all the time. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was, and that day was interesting for sure because it was all outside. We were going from the airport to essentially when we found the road rage guy on the side of the road. And our entire group was awesome. Shout out our second AD, Luke Yoder. We could have yeah, those dust storms are no joke.
Cool.
Anyone else? Back hooding.
Sure. For D'Angelo, I love the animation style. What was how did you go out and find the artists to go through and to do all the fantastic drawings for all of it?
Well, I am the artist, the illustrator, but I did I did actually hire out somebody to do the inking and the color. And so that's the other name that you see on there. Her name is Melinda. So I paid her to do all that because that's just not something I really felt like I could do. And it turned out great. She did a great job. So.
You said Tangelo did it with assistance.
Yeah.
On the book.
With assistance, yeah.
And then
In Sweetwater, how did you decide on portraying that gun dynamic where she pulls the gun unnecessarily or whoever? It depends. I thought that was a pretty self-aware situation.
Yeah, I mean that whole dynamic kind of comes from conversations that we have with our family about guns, and like when do you need it? You know, when if ever, if you're never gonna use it, like in a certain situation. We wanted to show that actually happening, because we have these hypothetical debates with our family, as I'm sure a lot of people do in Texas, because there are guns everywhere. Guns are a big part of our culture, and responsible gun use, irresponsible gun use, all of it. We just wanted to cover the whole spectrum and show guns being used realistically too, like how the drunk guy doesn't actually load the chamber of his gun because one, he's not going to actually use it, and two, he's drunk. So We wanted to show little things like that I personally, I mean, I like action movies and I like when action movies show guns. Having grown up in Texas around guns, I like when they're portrayed realistically, not as an endless clip of bullets and things like that. So, yeah, that kind of.
Yeah, for Daddy Warbucks, the dynamic between the father and son felt very Shakespearean to me. Did you get any like? Was there any like Shakespeare involved like in that, or how did that come about?
Um, no, but I mean, thank you. That's high praise. Thank you. I mean, yeah, like I said, I was reading a lot of plays. I did read some Shakespeare, but not for the context of this. But yeah, I don't know. There's certain stuff about your own family. Obviously, it's an exaggeration, but yeah, like I said, I was reading a lot. I was just kind of watching, and I thought, how can I, wouldn't it be interesting to have these people that are so kind of messed up and all over the place? And that was pretty important to me to try and nail that dynamic and make it interesting, and hopefully have people kind of pick sides, I guess, or have their own opinion about their relationship. So that was the impetus for that, really. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
I have one for you guys. So, your entire story did not have a lot of dialogue in it, but I feel like it was still really easy to follow. Like, they knew exactly what was happening and exactly what the actors were feeling. So, how do you write a script with so little dialogue and still be able to, like, explain so much?
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, all of my previous films were very dialogue heavy, and I was sort of just like vocalizing, my feelings, and I got so tired of it. And so I wanted to make a movie with almost no dialogue because my favorite thing about movies is when the audience can fill in the blanks and project their own life experience onto whatever they're watching. And sort of the less words you have, the more you could do that because it's like, why is that girl so crazy? The audience will come to their own conclusions. So yeah, I just like storytelling, where the audience is actively participating and you're not telling them everything. But I'm glad you thought that you could still follow the story and everything. So yeah.
Kind of follow up question for Francine. You said that getting into the character took you some time to kind of engulf yourself into her. What did you have to do to get into that character? Was that like things leading up to the film, or was it during the filming that you had to go? And like, what processes did you use to get into her?
Yeah, thank you. So the filming process itself was a bit extended. We self-funded the film between myself and Julian and some of the crew that helped. And so it was actually filmed over the course of 2 years. And so it and finished over the course of 2 years, but it took a while each time to kind of try and make sure that we were mapping onto the same place that we left off with. And I think one thing for me is just I'm very different from Francine. Thank goodness. I don't intend on killing anyone, but I think it was just about trying to almost get into more of a meditative headspace. And especially like Julie mentioned on set, we had a lot of really interesting disturbances starting to happen as we were filming at so many different locations. So it was kind of about trying to find that headspace in the moment. And, as we continually shot after, a couple months. So it was about trying to go back to that place and understanding her from the ground up really helped. And we have a lot of conversations with each of the characters that we go through and with each of the scripts that we write and work on together. And that really helps as well. Just talking about all the things that you don't see in the film as well as the things that you do. And really going through what the character is experiencing and who she is ahead of time really helps. And then, utilizing that to become that person when you're sitting there staring as much as I do into the camera, it's kind of that's I guess the process. That's what I would say. Thanks.
And I just want to add one thing to that. Because of how we shot the movie, and because there's almost no dialogue, the movie is mostly Sophie looking at nothing. Like I would be filming and I'd be like, act like he's over there, and she would just have to look into nothing, and fill in the blanks. Or sometimes it'd be like, here, look here, we'd find the eye line, and then I'd be like, I just hold my hand there, and she'd just have to look at that. And so she wasn't really acting across from someone most of the time. And that seemed like a very difficult thing, but she did it, and so yes.
What more? What if you get into that? Yeah, the acting was incredible. I think that's one of the hardest things for an actor to do, pull off the headshot without a lot of expression, and I feel like you totally killed it from moment to moment. That deadpan stare, just enough to share the emotion. So my question is, did you find when you're editing it, did you find like, okay, maybe we add this a little different to really match what this face is looking like here, where you're like, no, she just got it here and it works with this, so we're not going to change it.
Thank you for the question. I edited the film as well, and I mean, I storyboard every single shot, and that's usually what we end up shooting, unless something gets in the way or there's a better idea on set. And so it's all very precise and blocked off. And there's multiples. A lot of the movie we shot the scene like 3 or 4 times sometimes, and so we would just keep going until we got it right. But I do a lot of takes because I was the director of photography as well, and so I'm pushing the camera on a Dana dolly and rack and focus at the same time. So it would take like 5 takes before I could get the shot right, and then the next 5 takes we'd like focus on the performance. And so it was just I guess it was situation dependent on the scene, but yeah, that was the process. Yeah.
All right, let's keep this conversation going on outside. Can you give one more big round of applause?